What's the cheapest cam swap for an LS? How about installing another factory cam? In this video, we took a 5.3 liter LM7, fresh from the junkyard, and we ran all the other factory cams, comparing them to the LM7 cam. Now, why would we run the factory cams? Well, we all know an aftermarket cam in an LS is a home run. You can add a ton of power, but it's also not cheap. The factory cams, guys out there are giving them away, are selling them for next to nothing. So it's a cheap upgrade. The question is, how much power do they make? Our first comparison was using this LM7 5.3 liter from the junkyard, and we put it on the dyno the way that we always run them, with long tube headers, an open throttle body, a Mazira electric water pump, and a Holley HP management just to dial everything in. Got a nice curve, as you can see. This 5.3 did what most of them do with that stock cam, 353 horsepower on this one. They all range in the 350 range, 384 foot-pounds of torque. This one made a few extra foot-pounds, a little more than we're used to. Maybe it was sealed up. Maybe the guys took, good care of it. So this is with a stock cam, that LM7 cam, which also the LR4 4.8 and the early 6-liter all share the same mild cam, and it's the mildest one that GM put in these truck motors. But the first one we're going to take a look at is an HO53 cam. And as you can see, it's not a lot different. I don't even have the specs for this cam, unfortunately. I tried to look it up and find out what it is. So if any of you guys out there know what it is, let me know. I'm told that the HO cam is a little bit different. It's showing that it is. And it picked up a little bit of power, not a ton. I don't know that this would be worth a cam swap, but 362 horsepower, and it picked up a couple of foot-pounds of torque, 386 or 7 foot-pounds. Maybe a little bit lost downstairs. The idle vacuum was within 1 inch. It was 22.5 versus 21.6, so it's not like you'd ever see any difference in idle vacuum there. Cranking compression was the same on these two motors, right around 172 to 175, depending on which cylinder that you did. So basically, there's very little difference other than the power gains at the top. Out at the top here, I think we had 27 and 41. So we had 14 horsepower out there. So if you rev your 5.3 truck motor out there and you're thinking about putting this HO 5.3 cam in it, you'll have 14 extra horsepower out past 6,000 RPM. Don't know if that's a good trade-off, but that's up to you guys. Let's take a look at some more cams. The next cam we ran was a 6-liter LQ9 cam, not to be confused with the early LQ4 cam. Again, this is our 5.3 LM7. So here's what happened when we installed the LQ9, which I'm told it shared also with the LS1. So equipped with the LQ9 cam, we made 375 horsepower. The peak torque was not up dramatically, 388 foot-pounds, just shifted out a little bit. And we can see down here, we lost a little bit of torque from the little bit bigger cam. Now, I forgot to give you guys specs on the 5.3 LM7 cam, and that's a 191, 190 duration, 457, 466 lift, and a 115.5 LSA, although I'm told they changed that to a 114 and a straight 199 duration with the same lift on the later cams. Now, this LQ9 cam, by comparison, was a 467, 479 lift, 196, 201 duration, and a 116 LSA. And I'm told that this is the same as the 01 to 04 LS1. So let me know in the comments, guys, what do you guys think? Is that the same cam? This is how the LQ9 cam did. Let's find out what the next one is. Okay, here's our third cam in the test. This time we're going to take a look at an LS1 cam. Another factory choice there. This is our 5.3. This is the LS1 cam. So our LS1 cam, we'll take a look at the test descriptions here. The LS1 cam offered a 498 lift, 199 210 duration, and 119.5 LSA. Crank compression was 165. Idle vacuum was a lot of these. They were all within kind of an inch of each other until we get to some of the bigger cams, 21.5 inches. Equipped with the LS1, this LS1 cam, you can see most of the gains here are above 4,500 RPM from the LS1 cam, and it did indeed lose torque compared to the factory LM7 cam down below that. So equipped with the LS1 cam, we've got 382 horsepower, and torque shifted a little bit, but the peak was not changed dramatically. 388, 389 foot-pounds of torque. So this is that LS1 cam. Let's take a look at the next one. We're going to try to get through all the factory cams. This is our LM7 5.3 liter, but I want to compare these to the two blower cams that GM use, both the LSA and the LS9. So we'll start out with the LSA blower cam used in the ZL1 Camaro stuff. So as you can see, the LSA is a little bit more aggressive than the factory LM7 cam. Picked up quite a bit of power out here at the top from, say, 4,200 on out. Made 389 horsepower and 393 or 394 foot-pounds of torque. So it was a pretty good upgrade, assuming that you're only concerned about power after 4,000 RPM. There was a little bit of loss down here, especially way down in the 2,500 to 3,000 range on that LSA. Now, if we take a look at the LSA cam specs, we see it was a 480 lift, both intake and exhaust, 198, 216 duration, and a really wide 122.5 LSA. Cranking compression was 184, and idle vacuum was basically the same as all the others, 184. Idle vacuum was 21.6. So, but now let's take a look at, I want to include the LS9 cam with this because it's also the other factory blower cam. And the LS9 cam, obviously, if you take a look at it, that's why that's always an upgrade for the LSA guys. The factory LS9 blower cam makes a lot more power. Equipped with that LS9, our 5.3 made 419 horsepower. And the peak torque was actually not changed very much, just kind of rocked the curve there, 393.8 foot-pounds. So the LS9 and the LSA made the same peak torque, but the curves were dramatically different. I mean, take a look at the loss in torque from the LS9 cam. I mean, it lost power compared to the factory 5.3 cam all the way up to 4,800 RPM. And down here, down at the 2,500 RPM range, I mean, it was down by 35 or 40 foot-pounds of torque. I mean, it was quite a bit. So know that if you're going to put the LS9 cam in, it does work, it does make more power, but there's definitely a trade-off. Now that we've taken a look at the blower cams, let's do the other number cams, meaning the LS2, LS3, that sort of stuff. This is the factory LM7 cam again. So let's take a look at our LS2 cam. This was a weird thing. On this LS2 cam, we ran into valve float out here, and I'm not sure. We had the 26918 comp valve springs on this, and with all the other cams, it revved out fine. We revved it a lot higher than this, in fact. But on that LS2 cam for some reason. So let me know in the comments, guys, if you guys have ever experienced that with the LS2 cam. But it produced 403 horsepower and 399 foot-pounds of torque, so it did fairly well. And this cam, here are the specs on it. We had 21 inches of idle vacuum, so they're all idling very well, 175 pounds of cranking compression. The camshaft was a 525 lift, 204, 211 duration, and 116 LSA. Now let's take a look at, that's an LS2, let's take a look at our LS3 cam. LS3 cam was almost an overlay, certainly at the top. We didn't have a valve float issue. It made maybe 1 horsepower more, 404 or 405. The LS3 was actually down low, as you can see here. Lost a little bit of torque compared to the LS2 cam, and definitely compared to the factory LM7 cam. They lost a big chunk down here, 20 foot-pounds of torque. And if we take a look at the specs on the LS3, we can see what the difference is between that and the LS2. 551, 525 lift, so it had more intake lift. 204, 211 duration, and a 117 LSA. Idle was the same, 21 inches, and cranking compression was also at 175 on the LS3 cam. Now let's take a look at the final one for this group, take a look at the LS6 cam. So our LS6 cam kind of mirrored the others. It produced about the same peak torque, 398 foot-pounds. It actually produced a little bit more peak power, 408 horsepower, but it lost a bunch of torque down low. And right when this happened, when I was testing this LS6 cam, we actually spun a bearing in that test motor, and the cam got stuck in there. So I don't know if this was going away while it happened. It went out during this cam, but what I had to do was swap all of the internals, the crank rods, pistons, bearings, everything, and I basically had to do a block swap. So I swapped all of that stuff over to another block. Then I took everything out, re-ran it with the factory LM7 cam, and the thing produced exactly the same power curve. So I knew that I had another good baseline. So there was nothing wrong with the motor, nothing wrong with anything else. And then we re-ran it. Unfortunately, that LS6 cam was still stuck in the other motor, so I couldn't rerun that. So this may or may not be the accurate curve for an LS6, but it definitely is for the other guys. And after that, everything, like I said, repeated perfectly because we ran 2 cams in both of them, and they were both exactly the same. So take this for what you will. I don't think that this is actually accurate for the LS6, but definitely for all the rest of them. The final test was to compare the LS7 cam, which we know is the big boy there. So if we take a look at this is the LM7. Now this is the LS7 for the 427. So like that LS9 cam, which I'll bring up also, because those are basically the same thing, 423 horsepower, but lost a ton of power from 4,500 and below. Lost big down here on the torque. I mean, we're talking about almost 50 foot-pounds down there. But here's an interesting test. I also ran this with 1/8 roller rockers on it. And I think we started to see some power gains there, but we actually ran into valve control issues because I didn't have enough valve spring on with the roller rockers. Because if you're going to put roller rockers on, you have to have enough spring rate. But if this LS7 cam were run with 1/8 rockers, which it is on the LS7 factory rocker is a 1/8, I think it would make a little bit more power. But let's get rid of that. Here's an interesting comparison. I'll bring up that LS9 again, because the two share almost identical specs, and they produce, as you can see, basically identical power. So if we look at the power curve or look at the specs on the LS7 cam, it was a 558 lift, 211, 230 duration, and 121 LSA, which only differed by basically 1.5 degrees on the LS9. So effectively those cams do the same thing on these applications, and that is all of the factory cams. There are probably a few others that I didn't get, but this was early on and I think we covered a good basis. This will tell you what you need to know if you want to swap one of these factory cams in place of that LM7. There's definitely power to be had. Okay guys, what did we learn? Well, I think we learned that factory cams compared to the LM7 offer big power gains. I mean, we went from 360 horsepower all the way up to 420 horsepower. It's a gain of 60 horsepower from a factory cam. But we also learned this. Take a look at the graphs. Sure, you can talk about the big power gain and the fact that now your LM7 makes 420 horsepower with that LS9 or LS7 cam. But you also have to think about this. Take a look at the rest of the curve. You got big power gains, but you also traded low speed torque. Now, which one of those are you going to spend more time enjoying? That's up to you, but there's definitely power to be had putting a factory cam in your 5.3. I'm Richard Holdener, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff. I'll keep the videos coming. Thanks for watching.